Hi you guys, this is Michelle Matthews, and if we haven't met yet, you can check me out at bewellbymichelle.com. I am an energy alchemist and a modern day medicine woman and life purpose doula for light workers, other healers, and soulful entrepreneurs who are wanting to align with their intuition, trust in their path, and really unleash their inner magic out into the world. So if you're here today, it's not by accident, so please trust in that. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you one of my secret weapons for manifesting my intentions. So if you know me already, then you are probably pretty familiar with the fact that I love me some crystals. So on the one hand, crystals by themselves are super powerful and they can help you manifest all kinds of different intentions. And when you set them up in a grid, it can help magnify them so much more. So when you're setting up a grid, you actually, the most important thing to me when you're setting up a grid is your intention. So, I mean, this is for our everyday life, things that we're doing in our everyday life too, right? Like, you can be blessing your food so it nourishes all your cells. You can be blessing your water with light. You can be, when you're brushing your teeth, setting an intention not just to clean your teeth, but maybe to clean the words that are going to be coming out of your mouth later, you know? And so on like this. Then we can be setting intentions all day long, and then we start to align with things that we're really wanting for ourselves in our lives much more quickly. You'll see. So when you're setting up a grid, you have something that you are really clear on that you want to call in. And what I will do, sometimes it could just be one thing, or maybe it'll be a list of things. So you can write it on a piece of paper, write your intentions down on a piece of paper, and then I fold that piece of paper towards me, and then I'll put it in the spot where I'm going to be setting up my grid underneath the grid. So when you are setting up a grid, it's important to have a place in your house that the grid isn't going to be disturbed by little people or furry animals, because once you have it set up, you don't want the energy of it to be disturbed. So you can set up a grid basically anytime you want, but I really love to work with the moon as well. So what I usually do is I will wait until a new moon and set up the grid then, because when we are seeding our intentions at the new moon, then as the moon builds and waxes, then the energy of the moon is building, and then the energy of what we're wanting to manifest is also manifesting and building, right? So you have your space in your house, and then what I like to do is I like to clear the space. So I often share this. One of my space clearing teachers, Denise Lynn, says that clutter clearing is modern day space clearing. So start with the clutter, get the clutter out of your space, and then I'll usually take a little sage, I'll make a little prayer to the sage saying thank you for helping me clear this space. I'll make a little prayer to the fire for lighting the sage and helping me to light my intentions on fire. And then I go around the room and I clear the space. If you want more information that's more in depth on how to create sacred space and to actually clear yourself, I created an audio that's on my website, bewellbymichelle.com, and you can go right to the blog and listen to that to get more clear on that. I don't want to go too into depth in it in this video. Okay, so you have your space, you've cleared it, you know exactly where you want to set up your grid, you've written out your intentions, and you can now set your piece of paper in the spot that you want to set up your grid. Usually I will put a nice cloth over the piece of paper, and I also have crystal grids that are they're cut out of wood and they're set up in geometric patterns, and I have a really wonderful person that makes these grids if you're interested in more information on that. But I don't want you to go too crazy feeling like, these are all things that could stop us from setting up a grid, right? So you don't need any of that stuff. If you have a pretty scarf or a special piece of fabric, you can put that over your piece of paper, and then you'll be intuitively setting up the crystals that you have for your grid. Now, how do you know what crystals to use? So if you have a lot of crystals already, you can sit down with your crystals, spend some time with them, and see what you're being drawn to, and that maybe some of them resonate more for the intention that you're wanting to call in. If you're going to a store and going to be buying some crystals, then see which ones you're drawn to, see what colors pop out at you. Sometimes crystals will even pop right off the shelf at you. And that to me is always a big sign that, hey, like, I want to go home with you. So just pay attention to these little signs, okay? So you have your spot, you have your intentions, you have your intention set up under your cloth or your grid, and you have your crystals. So the next step for me is to program the master crystal. So you're gonna need one crystal that is set up in the center of your grid. I will usually use a bigger crystal for this, or a crystal that's really special to me. And so when I have that master crystal, I'll bring it to my heart, and I will think about the intention that I'm wanting to draw in, and I'll feel in my heart and in my body what it actually would feel like to have these intentions manifest in my life. Like, what would that feel like? And then I imagine all of this pouring through my heart, down my arms, into my hands, and into the crystal that I'm holding at my heart. All of this manifestation pouring into the crystal for the master crystal piece. Then you can set your master crystal down in the center of your grid, and then you can intuitively, with the rest of your crystals, set them up in a pattern. Typically, like I said, crystal grids are set up in a geometric pattern, but I've seen really beautiful, beautiful grids that are set up in like concentric circles or spirals. So you can really get creative with all of this. And then once you have all your crystals set up, you're gonna take, you can either use, I have a pointed wand, a crystal wand that I use to program the grid. But if you don't have a crystal like that, and I'm going to be showing you some examples of all of this too. If you don't have a crystal like that, you can just use your hand. So don't let anything stop you from setting up your grid, okay? If you don't have crystals too, maybe you live by the beach and you could incorporate some earth elements into your grid, like shells or special pieces that you find in nature. This can all work, but like I said, crystals are, they are earth elements that are going to magnify your intentions. Once you have your crystal wand, or maybe you're using your hand, you want to program your grid, okay? So again, recall what it would feel like to manifest all these intentions. Really feel what it would feel like to be living out this dream that you have in your heart. And then imagine these feelings, this intention pouring from your heart, down your arms, into your hand. And then you're gonna take your hand from the middle of the grid where the master crystal is set up, and then you're gonna touch it out from the middle of the grid to each crystal and back to the master. So master crystal, then out to the crystal nearest it, back to the master crystal, then back out to the next crystal, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to show you how to actually do this with an actual grid. Okay guys, so this is one of the wooden boards that I use for my crystal grids. This grid was made by the amazing Sherry Hayter. She actually carved these special words and intentions into this grid. This sacred geometry pattern is called a Vesica Pisces. I always say it wrong. So, but you get the idea of the pattern. And so I'm gonna set up the grid, and I know there's a little bit of like weird lighting here, but this is my master crystal that I'm gonna use for this grid. And like I said, your piece of paper with your intentions is gonna be underneath the grid. And then I have already programmed my intentions into the master crystal, this crystal right here. And then I have other beautiful crystals that I'm going to be using. And sometimes I'll set up crystals like this, so they're kind of like on the lines here. But these crystals that I chose today are a little bit big. So I'm going to just set them up intuitively. So I'm going to set one of these beautiful rose quartz here. And another one of these rose quartz wands over here. And then I have these awesome selenite wands, which selenite is awesome for calling in the angels. So I'm just gonna set them up. And notice how I'm setting them up so they point outward from the master crystal in the center. This is a very simple grid. And then I have this citrine point, and I'm going to use this to program the grid. So let's say I've brought this to my heart. I feel what it feels like to have all my intentions manifest. And then I'll go from the master crystal out to each crystal here. And then I'm gonna you don't have to incorporate the crystal that you use to program the grid, but I'm gonna actually put it right there. So you get the idea, and that's one example for you. One other thing that I wanna mention about crystal grids is that you don't wanna just set it and forget it, right? You want to be spending some time with your grid. This does not have to be every day, although it can be if you want. If I am setting up a grid, let's say on the new moon, and I'm working with a full moon cycle, then I'll spend time with my grid at least once a week, sometimes more. And like I said, you can do it every day if you like. It's good when you're sitting with your grid. You can, again, recall your intentions and what it would feel like to have those intentions manifest in your life. And also send some love to your grid, just like you did when you were programming your crystal grid and imagining this love and these intentions coming to light and having that energy run from your heart down your arms into your hands and into your crystal. Imagine that energy going back into your grid. Also, it's important that we don't just assume the grid is going to do all the work for us. It's highly likely when you're spending time with your grid that you're going to get some ideas of things that you can do in your everyday life to actually help draw those intentions to you. And so it's important that we're actually taking the steps in our everyday life to help our intentions come to fruition. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed learning about crystal grids and how to program them. Let me know how it goes for you. Send me pictures of your grid. And if you want 3 free energetic activations, you can also go to my website for those, BeWellByMichelle.com, and you'll start to learn how to start working with your aura, your energy bubble. You'll start to learn how to clear energetic blocks from your system, and you'll also start to learn how to work with your chakras. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to connect with you soon.